Welcome to the Andrea Giovino Show. I want to thank all my subscribers for subscribing. I also love the fact that you leave comments. And I thank you, Jesus, for giving me this platform and giving me everything I have in life. Today, I always say I have a special guest, but today is really, I am honored, I am thrilled that he is not just a special guest, he is an amazing human being. And I'm going to have him tell his story. So, Bruce Bryan.
How y'all doing? How's everything?
Good.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and just be on this platform and just be able to share and hopefully uplift some people and bring about some awareness.
Thank you. I first noticed that looking at your story, you were on the Joe Rogan show telling your story. And I was mesmerized listening to it that here you are, you did 30 years of your life in prison for something you didn't do.
Absolutely.
So I'd like for you to tell the audience how that came about.
In 1993, I was arrested and charged with murder. A murder that involved a drug-related shooting that resulted in a young person being killed by a stray bullet. Two parties were shooting at each other. One of the parties' stepson was killed by a stray bullet. And in Queens, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Queens during the 90s and the 80s, the drug era. Queens is known for having what they consider to be drug crews. Mm-hmm. So they never actually individually arrest one person in Queens when it's drug related. They'll arrest 5, 6, 3, 4 guys and try to make it seem like it was something out of New Jack City. Mm-hmm. And it's what prosecutors do. I had a rogue prosecutor by the name of John Scarpa, former Queens prosecutor who subsequently went to prison later on.
Wow. As
a defense attorney. But he's known for fabricating. He's known for prosecutorial misconduct. He's done it in several cases throughout the course of his career, going back to the 80s. Mm-hmm. So as a result of this shooting, 3 people were arrested, charged with murder, everyone convicted, sentenced to life sentences. I was sentenced to 37 and a half to life in 1996.
Did you have an attorney? Were you able to provide an attorney?
And I had a rogue. I had probably the worst judges that did. I had a judge by the name of Demacus that literally denied me the ability to get relieved of my 18B counsel and hire private counsel.
Wow.
My 18B was a guy named Reginald Tao, and I have countless documents of me actually asking the judge to remove him mm-hmm. and allow my family to hire an attorney, mm-hmm. and I was denied all 3 times.
Wow. Do you think that going back then, because it's still current now, it was more prejudiced?
I think in the 90s it was...
Just because of color?
I think race definitely played a part,
mm-hmm.
but I think also in the 90s there was so much corruption from the cops
yeah.
to the prosecutors, and everyone mm-hmm. was making a career as a result of the drug and the crack epidemic, right? So, first you had cocaine and crack. Cocaine,
heroin was big.
Heroin, but during the crack era, a person arrested for crack was sentenced to 100 times more than a person that got convicted for the same amount of cocaine.
And I even think back then also that in that judicial system, I think people of color really a lot of people have gotten bad deals. Like they just, put them away, send them away, and not really looking at, like you're saying, the facts of the case.
Absolutely.
And not detailing
mm-hmm.
the facts of the case. And then to not allow the family to bring in another attorney, mm-hmm. that just says something to me that's absolutely crazy.
Well, Queens back then under Richard Brown, prior to that, Santucci was a different place.
Right.
I mean, completely different. And when you talk about race, the vast majority of people that were arrested and convicted in Queens were from South Jamaica, black and brown people that look like me. Mm-hmm. And the unfortunate thing about it was that prosecutors were rewarded. They were incentivized for having a high conviction rate. So a prosecutor that never loses a case and constantly gets people convicted, they get rewarded.
They get a badge on them.
They get a badge on them,
Yeah.
just like
their career goes up. They don't care about you, the human being.
They're not concerned about that.
No.
They're concerned about their career.
Which is horrible.
Yeah,
so, it's absolutely horrible.
So, the humanity that exists within each and every person that was and before them during this time wasn't even seen. It was devalued. Even when you look back to 1989, when the prosecutor in Manhattan wrongly accused the exonerated five. I mean, she had everything from a book deal to a huge career.
Right.
It's what happened. They were incentivized.
Bruce, how old were you when this happened?
I was going 23 years old.
That's a kid.
I'm 23. Yeah.
And got out at what age?
53.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long, long time. Now, do you have siblings?
I have 6 siblings. My mother and my father. I lost my father in 2017.
So imagine, like, I'm a mom of 4 adult kids. I have 3 sons. And just on a mom's point of view, to see this happen to her 23-year-old son, that is your life. Like, I think that, yes, you had to go through that. And at 23, you're a kid. I don't care, like, how strong, how tough. You're still a kid up here, like, to go into a system like that.
Absolutely.
Because it was state, am I right?
New York State prison system,
That's
all maximum security.
The worst.
Yes.
It's the worst. And I'd like for you to tell the audience what that's like, just going in at 23 years old into maximum security prison, state prison. I know because I know it's horrifying.
It's unimaginable. I mean, words cannot even begin to describe the suffering, the oppression, the level of violence, the lack of dignity that existed.
It just makes
bars.
me so sad.
Back then, Rikers Island had over 20,000 people on it, and they say now Rikers is overcrowded. Back then, it was really overcrowded.
I know.
People dying over the telephone. Racial riots, Spanish against blacks, Latin kings oppressing blacks, and then came the onset of the Bloods, and they were developed as a result of that.
It's a survival of.
It's survival of the fittest.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
The food was horrible, and the conditions were just
mice, roaches.
Mice, roaches, rats, you name it. But it was just so congested in there. And they have you fighting for what they believe what we believe were limited resources, limited phone time, limited food, limited commissary.
It's like you're an animal.
Oh, yes.
They treat dogs better than that.
And they know that. I think that people know when you pile people up in one area like that, and you tell them, well, these are going to be your living quarters for however long it takes for you to go to trial. And I mean, guys was waiting 2 years. I didn't see a judge for the first 13 months I was on Rikers Island. I mean, literally, I would go to court and I would sit in the bullpen for 8, 9, 10 hours, sometimes 14 hours, and not see a judge with 10 other guys in the bullpen. Sometimes guys are fighting for benches. Guys are getting cut in the bullpens, fighting with the guards when the guards opened the door. It was just, it was
it's inhumane.
It was like a zoo.
Yeah, it's a zoo. Yeah. Because even for you, so young, I mean, you had to have, for that happening to you, so much anger, even anger toward God. Like, why'd you put me in this position? Like, and not being able to even get out of it. Like, not having a judge or not having the ability to have an attorney to appeal it for you. And 30 years is life. It's considered life.
Absolutely. I think in the earlier part of my incarceration, I was angry.
Of course.
And anger simply eats at you. It kind of eats at your soul, being angry constantly.
It's not good for you to stay in that state of mind.
And you stay in that state for years, especially when you're wrongfully convicted. And I always tell people that in every prison, in every jail that I've ever been in, the guys that were wrongfully convicted, they somehow fought just a little bit harder, right? They try to maintain a little bit of hope, because I think somewhere deep in their minds and in their hearts, they says, I didn't do this, and I know that the day will come that I'll be liberated. So you continue to fight, and you continue to keep that sense of hope. But in the beginning, I mean, it's just so violent. You become desensitized by violence every day.
Yeah, desensitized
right?
is
You
the
become
word.
desensitized by it. So you're constantly seeing it, right? And you become hollow, and you feel like this. I mean, it becomes normalized. So seeing a guy get stabbed 5-6 times is an everyday occurrence.
Is there rape that goes on?
Very seldom would you see rape, particularly in New York State, but it does happen.
It happens.
It does happen. I think primarily where you see a lot of rapes happen in the female prisons from
Really?
the guards.
Oh, wow.
You know, I think vast majority of women in New York State prisons have if they have experienced some level of sexual harassment or sexual assault from the prison guards. So it definitely happens. It definitely happens.
I mean, not only with like you, it had to affect your mom.
Oh,
big time. You're her child. You're her baby. You know, I don't care how many kids you have. I have 4 kids. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter. I come from a family of 10. I'm one of 10 children. We grew up very poor. There were a lot of, in my family, we let a lot of us strayed toward the criminal life for survival. And one of my brothers passed away at 27, and she had 9 other kids. My mom was never the same. And then my other brother that went away, he went to state prison, also Sing Sing, Ossining, upstate New York at 19. And it just eats the parents away. You know, it was very hard for my mom to even sleep at night. And that's what the audience needs to understand. It's not just your life. It's your extended family's life.
Absolutely.
That it affects all of them. Your siblings hurt. They might not be able to express it to you or say it, but they hurt because their brother, we don't know when we go to sleep at night what's happening to him. So it's...
I think people don't really understand the depths of incarceration and the pain that it causes.
Causes so much
pain. And some people
pain.
say, well, it's collateral consequences. I think it's primary consequences, right? Because your mother is your primary caregiver. So,
listen, it doesn't matter. You can have, I don't know how many wives. A mother's love is never going to be the same. You can get like another wife and you get another husband, but you can never get another mom.
That's right.
You get one mom.
One single mom.
One mom in life, you know. And that mom, when she has that child, like no matter what, I told you my mom had 10, she loves each and every one of those babies. So it had to affect her.
Yeah.
You know, and
I am her last child.
You're her baby.
My mother has 6 kids. I'm her last child.
Yeah.
My little brother is by same father, different mother. So I understand, you know, even seeing her now and how she clings to me.
Of course.
I mean, even on my way here, how she constantly calls. You want me to make this for you? What time you come? Because she missed me for 29 years.
Of course.
And I remember that there were times when my father would tell me, your mother cries every night.
Oh, you're going to make me upset. It's so heart-wrenching.
You know, she cries every night. And I know for myself, I spent thousands of nights crying myself to sleep. So I just imagine the thousands of nights that my mother spent. My mother was my age when I went to prison. My mother was the age that I am now. Today, she's in her 80s.
God bless her.
And, you know, for me, the greatest joy is being in her presence, because I know that every day of my incarceration, she was there.
She hurt.
And whenever I spoke to her, she said, I'm praying for you to come home.
100%.
Keep praying. Keep on praying. And you know, have faith, baby. And these were the things that kept me going. Right? Knowing that if my mother can be strong, I had no choice but to be strong.
You have to be strong. And you
Right?
have to put on, I know, because like very close, like family members of mine that were incarcerated like you at a very young age, you can't show emotion like we're showing emotion now.
Absolutely not.
You'll be taken as weak. So you have to hide that. You have to hide it and mask that because you don't want anybody else to see.
But not only that, I can't tell you how many times I was on the phone with my mother crying, and I would mask my
Your
tears
emotions.
and change my voice, and so she would think that I'm all right. And sometimes she'll catch it and say, "You crying? You crying?" And I say, "No, mommy, I'm all right."
Yes.
I always said I was all right, even when I wasn't all right, because if I said I wasn't all right, then that means she wouldn't be able to sleep that night.
Exactly. And she wouldn't be able to sleep.
Yes.
But that's also what I want to bring out in this story is the system, how the system failed you. The system failed you. You can't get back those 30 years.
Can't get back those years. So
you lost 30 years of your youth, some of the best years of your life. Growing up, who knows what you could have been? Who knows what you could have done with your life?
It's one of the reasons why early in my incarceration that I decided that I was going to commit myself to growth and development.
Yes.
Right? Because I didn't want to feel like I wasn't living, that I was missing everything. So I figured I can create a life, a meaningful life right where I was at. So even if it meant helping younger brothers inside and just trying to mentor them and trying to inspire them and encourage them to go to school. When I had the opportunity to pursue a higher education, I made it my business to go to college and to graduate.
Wow.
Then I was offered the opportunity to leave that prison, Sullivan, and go to Sing Sing and pursue my bachelor's. And I was the first person to raise my hand and say, I'll go to Sing Sing. The last 9 years of my incarceration were at Sing Sing.
Wow.
And I was able to earn my bachelor's degree in behavioral science. And, fortunate to be blessed by a program called Hudson Link, which financed our education. Because as you know, back then, Pataki dismantled the Pell Grants. Mm-hmm. So the state wasn't, being provided with funding to pursue higher education. And it always made me wonder, education helps people broaden their horizons, helps people transform their lives, right? Why would you dismantle higher education?
And it lifts their self-esteem. Because if you don't have a good self-esteem, that's what makes a lot of people go in the streets also, because
Absolutely.
That's what happened to us. We were not educated. We didn't go to school. I have a 7th grade education, so I had no self-esteem. So because I had no self-esteem, I went toward the criminals to feel comfortable with those types of men opposed to someone that's better. You know what I mean? That is education, that has an education. So education does mean a lot for a person's growth.
Absolutely. And what people don't say, they don't realize that, and what you will never hear the media say is that poverty is the mother of crime.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Poverty is the mother of crime.
100%.
People aren't born with a criminal gene.
No.
People are surrounded and are brought up in communities that are
inner cities that have nothing,
that are infested with crime generative factors, right? That breed crime, right? And so, when we talk about crime and people committing crime on the subway, no one talks about the social conditions that produce crime.
I always say, every baby that's born is an innocent little baby in the cradle.
Absolutely.
What happens to them along their journey is what makes them who they are.
Absolutely.
So it goes back to where I feel there's not enough in the system. They right away look to incarcerate opposed to rehabilitate. Put more education into the cities of helping them not to be criminals. And I always feel that everyone is good at something. Mm-hmm. They're good at something. I have a 7th grade education, but I sat with Barbara Walters. I've been on 60 Minutes.
Absolutely.
I strive to get out there. I used my street smarts to say, once my self-esteem came up, they're no better than me. I can get out there and do that. I can do just as good or maybe better because I have the street smarts behind me.
That's right.
So I think that if they give them the ability to understand, but a lot of times they don't even try to give them that. They don't put the funding into it.
Because they don't care, and they want the system to create a permanent underclass. So it's designed to do just what it's doing, right?
Right.
It's designed to release people, right, the same way or worse, because jail and prisons are criminogenic in that they produce criminals, right? They produce more crime. So a guy can go in and commit one bad act and go to jail. And while he's in jail, he becomes a criminal.
He becomes a criminal.
Right.
And then he has to survive in there.
And
So he
has
gets
to
another
survive in
case
there.
on him.
Yeah.
And that happens too a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, it's really something that is designed to do what it's doing. I always say that prison thrives off of failure, off of human failure, right? Because they don't surround those humans with the opportunities so that they can thrive in life. They want us to continue to have that mindset that says we're surviving. We're in survival mode. Well, we shouldn't have to survive. We should be able to thrive.
And to be in survival mode, you're always, you don't
Absolutely.
know
Absolutely. You're fighting for
you're
what you
fighting,
believe are
and you're
limited
fighting,
resources.
And you're fighting for who's going to come behind you, and you can't even sleep at night. And I know this also, you had to go through this. Coming out, when my brother came out or my husband came out, because they were incarcerated for so many years, they didn't want to be around a lot of people or even in a supermarket. Or can you explain? It's like a PTSD, like a trauma.
A post-incarceration trauma.
Exactly. And that takes time and work. So that had
post-incarceration traumatic syndrome is what you can call it. You
just don't know how to survive.
Yeah, I mean, after 29 years of incarceration, you know what they gave me? $40 in the bus ticket. No therapy. No one's analyzed before they walk out of prison. Here's your $40. The van's going to drop you off at the train station up the block.
And you got a big stamp, felony.
Yeah.
How do you get a job? How do you get out and survive in the world? How do I function?
But
how do you learn how to use a cell phone?
Skills? How do you learn soft skills?
Yeah.
How do you learn how to navigate mainstream society, right? And then psychologically, the impact, the trauma. And
you're with men. Mm-hmm. Men are all very rough around the edges.
Oh, very aggressive.
How do you come out and try to be in a relationship?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big issue too, because you've been with men for 29 years, they come out very much more.
Because I think being incarcerated and being surrounded with all that testosterone inside, when you come home and then you're around, the estrogen and the women, sometimes you can come off too aggressive.
Exactly.
Because you're so accustomed
to that,
to being aggressive.
Exactly.
Because you come from a volatile environment.
Yes, but
right?
she doesn't understand that.
But she doesn't understand that. She's, why are you so rough? You need to tone it down. I'm not against you.
Because she doesn't understand that that's all you had to be for survival.
If and they don't even understand when you need time alone.
You have to have time alone. Right. It's important to have time alone.
Even today.
Inwardly.
Right? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Saturday and Sunday, since I've been home, either day or sometimes both days, I go to the park for a walk.
By yourself?
By myself.
Yeah, that's good. That's therapy. That's the best.
And then I go to the park by myself for a few hours.
To think.
Go
inward.
Go inward and just reflect.
Right.
On what my week was like and what how I can make it better, and just
grow.
Thinking about how I can, continue to grow spiritually and emotionally, and just trying to purge my mindset of what it meant to be in prison. I haven't been home a year yet. I was granted executive clemency by Governor Kathy Hochul. Right? Also, I'll still be in prison. April 24th makes a year that I've been released.
So it's not even a year.
It's not even a year. So for me, it's so important that I spend that time alone. Mm-hmm. Right? And sometimes your family and the people around you, they don't get it.
They don't understand it.
They don't really understand. Sometimes they think, well, maybe this guy doesn't want to be around us. Do you think? But that's not it.
No.
It's the psychological impact of years of incarceration.
I understand that. I know that.
You've learned to keep yourself company. Mm-hmm. And you've learned to appreciate your aloneness. Mm-hmm. So being alone, while it may, bother someone else, it doesn't bother you.
No, and I think that, the experts say, because I've been alone for, I think, about 10 years now. I don't date or anything like that. You're in one of the best places of your life. And the reason for me is because I had so many bad relationships that I just got to a point that, you know what, I'm fulfilled with myself. I have my work, I have my grandkids, I have my kids, I have a full life, I have a beautiful home. I don't need it. But that's sometimes a good spot to be in, to know that you're self-sufficient.
Absolutely.
You're okay.
Yes.
I'm okay.
Yes.
And other people don't understand that. When you get to that point of saying, you know what, I'm okay. What you've been through, hell and back, you'll be okay. You know, I mean, I think the most important thing is you have God in your life.
Yes.
And that's very important. You're spiritually enriched. You've been through the worst storm that you could have come up. So anything that's thrown at you, you'll be fine.
Yes.
You're going to be fine.
I try not to sweat the small stuff.
Exactly.
But you know, there's a flip side to that, being alone. And the flip side to that is I'm still getting used to those crowds on the subway when I go to work every morning.
It takes time.
Right? So sometimes when it gets a little late and I decide, I work on Queens Boulevard, I decide to go to Manhattan.
What do you do? Tell the audience.
I'm a criminal legal advocate, right? And also a student, a young person's mentor. So I advocate for alternatives to incarceration for young people who are impacted by the justice system. Right? I'm also the co-director of a youth program that we just opened up in Far Rockaway as well as in Jamaica.
Is that for kids that already got in trouble?
For children, young people that are impacted by the system, but also those who haven't been impacted, because I believe prevention is better than cure.
Right. You want to keep them out of the system.
Exactly. So you want to keep them out, and you want to get a hold of them and help them kind of understand that they don't have to make those poor decisions.
Exactly.
Right? Because we always talk about choices, but choices without options mean nothing, right? A person has to know that there are options for them.
Right.
And if you don't provide young people with options, then they don't know what choices they have, right?
Right. Or what options are there for them.
Or what options are there for them. So it's important that we try to provide them with that. But more than anything, I advocate for young people who have, like, first offense, gun case, you want to send them away for 2-3 years. I mean, alternative to incarceration are much better than jail, because jail doesn't make anybody better.
What I think jail does, from what I've witnessed in my own background, is they become better criminals.
Or they become worse human beings.
Yeah, because you're around, sickness breeds sickness.
Absolutely.
So if you're around sick people every day, it only makes you sicker.
Only makes you sicker.
Just like we said earlier, in that if you're not aggressive, you have to become more aggressive to survive in there. So you become more aggressive. You become more of, like, I got to watch my back. I can't, turn my back. I can't sleep good at night because who knows who's going to come in. It's such a traumatic experience.
Absolutely.
That the normal person, I understand it because I came from that background. My brothers, my husband, me facing charges. So I understand it wholeheartedly. And the normal person doesn't. They just, and that's what I really wanted you to tell.
What happens is, when you become incarcerated and you have to adjust and cope with that environment, you begin to normalize abnormal behavior.
100%.
Right? I mean, I was sleeping in a dorm on Rikers at one time, but I slept fully dressed with my boots tied up.
Right.
Because you're in a dorm with 50 guys.
That's not normal.
That's not normal.
No.
But you normalize this behavior because you understand that
because it's survival.
It's survival. You're always in survival
You're
mode.
always in survival mode. Who's going to come jump you?
So when I get out and I go to a restaurant and I says, you always sit with your back away from the door and to the wall. It's because, I'm still in.
But I'm going to tell you that's
mode.
And I'm a street person. I'll never go in a restaurant or go anywhere. I have to face the door. I want to see who's coming in.
You want to see who's coming in?
I don't want anybody I don't know. And I'm a woman and I think like that.
Yeah.
I never want my back to the door ever. I want to see who's walking in.
Absolutely.
Who's coming my
Absolutely.
way. Because if you don't, they have an edge on you. They have an advantage over you. And that's how you think. That's just ingrained in you. And I just believe, like, things that are survival for us will never leave us, because that's just how you had to live all those years of knowing someone could roll up on me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to have them have the surprise of the unknown on me, because the surprise of the unknown is there.
Is there. The element of surprise is always
The
there.
element of surprise.
Since I've been home, I think I sat on the train once, and a lady came in and I gave her my seat. And then a pregnant lady came in, and there was a young guy sitting across from me, and he just sat there. And I tapped him on his leg. I said, "She's pregnant." And he looked at me. I said, "She's pregnant." And then he said, "Oh, okay," because he was in his phone.
Yeah.
So he got up and he gave her the seat.
Right.
But he felt offended in some way.
Right.
And I told my family about it, and they said, "Never do that." So ever since that incident, I don't sit down on the train anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't even want to sit down because, I just, number one, there's a sense of like, if a woman comes in, these guys, they don't give up seats. The world has changed drastically.
It's changed so much.
Tremendously.
You know what's happened? The word respect doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't
There's no
exist.
word respect for nothing. It's like you're saying, that's like a courtesy. That's what a gentleman does, a man does. You get up and let the lady sit. But that doesn't exist.
And then to see him kind of flare up and get offended, I said, it's best that I stand up now on the trains because so much happens now. So you just want to be on point at all times.
You want to be on point.
You want to be on point at all times.
When you got out, they just let you out. Did you have
$40 on a bus ticket? That's it.
No therapy?
None. My lawyer asked me, says, "What can I do for you?" I said, "The one thing you can do for me is get me a therapist."
Because
I understood that I needed it. Based on the books that I've read while I was incarcerated, I understood how important it was for me to get therapy. And especially
you need it for, like I'm saying as a woman, because when my husband got out of prison and then he came to live with me, I found, and I'm from the streets, I'm rough around the edges. I found he was very rough around the edges. So to be with a normal woman and to have a good, rewarding relationship, you have to work on those issues.
Especially a woman who doesn't understand anything about being rough around the edges.
100%.
Right?
You'll have a lot of problems. A lot of problems.
So you got,
and then you don't want to get caught up constantly explaining yourself.
Absolutely.
It's too draining.
Absolutely.
So I think that therapy is the best thing. I believe in therapy. I've had a lot of therapy in my life just to understand why I was picking the partners I picked. And that proved to me I had low self-esteem. I didn't think I can have someone that was normal. But I think therapy, you work inward. I call it emotional surgery. It's like opening you up and then putting you back together again.
And what I don't understand is why wouldn't the system want to provide somebody that has spent 20, 25 years incarcerated?
They should. They need it.
With therapy before they walk out the door. As well as therapy when they walk out the door.
Right. It should be a must.
It should be mandated.
100%. It should be a must because they need it. They need it for them to go function and survive.
To reintegrate. Absolutely.
Right.
You have to have that.
Well, I am honored that you came on the show. I mean, I need to tell the audience that he was called, here he is. I didn't know him. And I thought that, wow, I'd love to interview this guy because I thought your story was fascinating. And coming from my background, I was like, this guy would be great to interview. And Ahmad, the person that owns the studio, said, I can get him in here. And I was like, nah, I don't think so. He goes, yeah, I can get him in here. But he called you and then all of a sudden you showed up.
Yes.
And that meant so much to me that you came in after doing Joe Rogan's show. You came to do my show.
Absolutely.
Which I love. And it just shows what kind of person you are. A really good soul, a good human being. And I wish nothing but the best for you.
Thank you so much.
I want nothing but the best for you. God is going to bless you. I know that there's a reason why you're still here and you're out because there's a lot of work for you to do.
I believe that wholeheartedly.
I believe that.
And I take this work seriously because it's so important for all of us to understand that the one thing that we have to do is we have to somehow honor and protect the humanity of those who society says is the worst of us. Mm-hmm. Because the reality is our humanity is inextricably intertwined with each and every person. Mm-hmm. Even the guy that you see, the homeless guy you see on the corner, right? Our humanity is connected right directly to theirs. So when one of us rise, we all rise, right?
Exactly.
it's a real all a part
and
of
I
the
believe,
ecosystem.
like I had said to you earlier off air, that life is about helping the next person
Absolutely.
up, like bring you up to my level, not knock you down.
We lift as we climb.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
Right.
what life is about, helping the next human being and helping the next human being. And that's what makes us develop and be the best person that we can possibly be.
And that's what we're doing here today, right?
Exactly.
You're climbing and you're lifting me as you climb. I'm climbing and I'm hoping that someone that's
Right.
listening to me, that I can lift them.
100%.
Because it's about inspiring, motivating, and knowing that we all have the wherewithal to do and be more. Mm-hmm. Right? We just have to make up our minds to be resilient, which is something that I believe it comes through trial and error. And we have to turn off that switch of survival and say, well, it's time for me to thrive. And understand that there's sacrifices that we have to make in order for us to thrive and reach where we want to reach. So we all just got to pick each other up and lift each other up.
100%.
That's what I believe wholeheartedly.
Is there anything else you would like to tell the audience before we close out?
One of the things I would like to say is that, there are countless men across the country, and probably some women too as well, that are suffering on death row. Even their humanity needs to be protected. Right now, I have a friend by the name of Keith Lamar, who is on death row in Ohio, wrongfully convicted for 5 prison homicides during a riot. And, I've been to the French embassy, and I've spoken to countless people across the country about Keith Lamar. He's an outstanding human being, a brother who I love, and I'm sure there are countless others like him. And for those of you who don't know, he's the only person who has done a jazz album from death row. And so many. Ohio is we talk about Texas and we talk about Pennsylvania. Ohio has a really harsh system. And I just implore people to get involved, because each of us can do something to lift up our brothers and sisters who are inside.
Getting the message
right?
out.
Getting the message out. Getting the message out. Sometimes just signing up to write a letter or send an email to somebody behind prison bars.
It makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference.
I know. It does.
So I implore everybody that's, within the sound of my voice to, pick up a pen. Don't be afraid to write someone. Don't be afraid to get involved in the Frederick Douglass Project, which brings everyday citizens inside of prisons so that they can sit down and see the humanity of incarcerated people. Because the media makes them look like animals.
And also what I think is it's for incarcerated people that it's inhumane to not be touched or hugged.
Absolutely.
They need that comfort, just a hug to show them someone cares about you.
That's right.
You're a human being. You're one of God's children. We're all God's children.
Mm-hmm.
There's good in a lot of them.
There's a good in there's just, if you look for that good in each person, you'll find it. And prison doesn't change anyone. Investing in education, investing in quality relationships, these are the things that transform people's lives, transforms the way they think and the way that they live. Mm-hmm. So, let's not think that jails are the answer. Let's think that education, let's think that love, let's think that, investing in humanity and coming together and lifting people up.
Exactly.
Right? Because if we truly believe what Brian Stevenson said, that each of us are better than the worst thing we've ever done, then if we believe that, then it's our job to protect and honor the humanity of those of us who have committed some horrendous acts, and try to find out what is it, right? Because no one's born a criminal. Crime generative factors create crime generative attitudes and behaviors. So let's invest in social structure so there doesn't have to be poverty, right? Because poverty is violence.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Poverty is the mother of crime.
Yes, poverty is crime. That's why we went to crime. We were born, we were poor.
Exactly.
So
let's invest in human beings.
And helping one another.
And you'll see lives transformed on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you to my subscribers. Please leave a comment. I love the fact that he came in. This was a great, great episode. Thank you, Jesus, for giving me this platform and making me the person I am today. We'll see you next time.
God is good.
God is good.
Thank you again for having me here.
Of course.
My name is Bruce Bryan. If anybody has any interest in wanting to talk to me about criminal legal reform.
Are you on any platforms, Bruce? Social media or anything like that?
I'm on Instagram.
Instagram. So if
Bruce
you want Bruce.
Bryan, Bryan 24.
Okay.
Bruce.Bryan 24 is my Instagram.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.